Alright guys, I'm finally at home, and in this video I want to recap the race with all the mistakes that I made and that other people made, I noticed, because every race, it's my second race, and I want it to be a unique, well, it's always a unique experience, but I want it to be a learning experience for me, so I want to specifically find the mistakes that I made and to write them down and share with you, so then I can open this video even for me, and kind of like relive it, recap it for myself, what I learned and what mistakes I shouldn't make in the future. So straight up, first mistake, I got my saddle installed in the shop. It didn't feel that good, and I tried to mess with it. Actually, I went to the race, to the race course, and I just wanted to slightly tilt the nose of the saddle down, but at the same time I pointed saddle, I wanted to put it a bit forward, but when I put it forward, it actually slid a bit, and it seemed like it's pointed down, but probably it was, without any device or ruler, to measure the angle. You cannot really do it by eye, like it's not that easy. So the biggest mistake I made this race was the messing up with my saddle before the race. It led to about 5 hours into the race. I went to the toilet to quickly pee, and I noticed that I can barely pee. It's so painful, because probably my perineum was so, I don't know, like pressed, to the saddle. It was just a mess, It took about 12 hours to me to feel good again. But yeah, that's the first mistake. Never mess up with your bike fit in general, before any event or race. You have to sort it out beforehand, never before the same day before a race. It's just terrible. You most likely won't get it right, straight up. Second mistake, it's not a mistake, it's the second biggest, the most important thing before doing a long 150 and more K ride, and I believe even a long Gran Fondo, maybe 100K ride. Huge meal of complex carbs a few hours before a race. It's crucial. I even wrote it down, crucial. With the first race, as I said, guys brought their own oatmeal, and I was not that experienced at that time, but this time I actually got the oatmeal and I got the peanut butter and soy milk. I woke up at 3 a.m. before a race. I got a huge, maybe 300 grams of dry mass of oatmeal and a few spoons of peanut butter, all with the chocolate soy milk, and I didn't even finish it because I was so full, but it was something I wanted to do. I wanted to fool myself completely 4 hours before the race start. Well, actually, I would say I finished maybe 3 hours before a race start. Like, I had to wait and I had a shower. So about 3 hours before a race, I had a big meal of complex carbs. I believe it's the most important, because I tried different Gran Fondos, different rides, and the best carbs that worked for me, for a long, because let me tell you through. So when you ride on the big ride, on the long ride, when you cannot stop, or you can't even stop, you usually consume simple carbohydrates, like maybe fruits, or maybe cookies, or maybe any other source of sugars you can get. And it's not possible in the Gran Fondo to consume complex carbs like potatoes, rice, maybe oats, any porridge, in the race. It's usually impossible. You can get gels and maybe other bars, but they are all usually not complex carbs. And I noticed when I do consume complex carbs before a race, specifically first meal before a huge day, it's the best. Like you should consume it a few hours before a race. I noticed if I consume it about an hour before a race and then we hammer, you might feel pretty full, pretty heavy. But 3 hours before a race, perfect, And yeah, it's the biggest tip I can give to you, because it's the biggest tip I noticed myself. This race was specific testing of this tip, I wanted to check it myself once again before I give this tip to you. I wanted to check it again. and I did, and I was so impressed by how I actually performed this race. But I will tell you through in the race recap how I performed. Third mistake the guys made, I didn't. Minimal time for stops. This is the mistake I made in the previous race, that I made so many stops, that I actually was cut off by the time, But this time, out of 6 hours and 30 minutes of moving time, elapsed time was 6 hours and 20 minutes. Sorry, 6 hours and 50 minutes. So 20 minutes over the course of 180 Ks, I think. So minimal stops. We did. I thought it's going to be like a race with no stops, but they actually have to check, so they give you the card and they pretty much stamp it and you can go, So I noticed, I just gave the card to the girl or guy, they stamp it. I grabbed 2 bananas, refill my bottles, and go straight away. Maybe grab a gel as well. So in general, it maybe took me, there were like 6 checkpoints, so I would say about 3 minutes every checkpoint. And only once I went to pee, I didn't want to pee that much because we were sweating so much. So fourth tip, it's not a mistake, but it's better to know this. It's better to have it sorted, know the course. So you pretty much have to know what is going ahead, what's gonna happen, because when you're hammering, for example, and you know that there are no climbs left, then you can go, full gas maybe, and just hold this power, or maybe hold this heart rate, even though it might be not that easy and you feel like you're suffering. If you know, like if you know the course, you can pretty much plan ahead. Or at the same time, if you know that there is one more huge climb ahead, you can probably, if you know that you are suffering right now, you can probably a bit, give yourself a bit of a rest. You shouldn't hammer at the front. You should just sit on the wheel probably, because knowing the course is the best. Is kind of like the information your brain can focus on. It's hard for us to. I notice it's hard for my body to be completely in the moment, to be completely relaxed when I don't know what's laying ahead. So knowing the course is very important. Next race I'm doing, I will definitely check the course and even probably download it and check every checkpoint if we have them. Even the checkpoint, it's better to know where they are, because it's very important knowledge, I noticed. You can kind of because if once you know that the checkpoint is 2 Ks ahead, you can kind of push through that patch probably and get there and not lose the wheel of the guys, But if you don't know where is the checkpoint, you can probably lose the wheel, and then there you lose them. So yeah, know the course. 5th tip, line at the front from the start if you can. It will allow you to know what's going on during a race better. This is the tip I want to give you, because this time there were 1,200 to 1,500 participants. I'm not too sure. So many people. So we were maybe in the middle of the pack, and probably took us 2 to 3 minutes before we started rolling. But still, it's the losing of time, And then even though we picked up so many people, on the way uphill, but we still didn't completely know where the front group is, And then once you start right at the start, right in the front, you definitely know how many people passed you, And it's then better for your brain, once again, and for your body to focus on. If you know there are only 10 people ahead, you can probably push through. But if you're in the middle of the pack and you just picked maybe 200 people, you still don't know how many people in the front, So you should better line up at the start line. If you want to compete anyway, 6th tip, find the stronger guy's wheel and follow as much as possible. It's the tip for the guys that probably just starting. If you're not that strong, and the guys out there are definitely much more experienced and stronger, just try. It's a learning experience. You're not there to win something, You're there to gain as much fitness and knowledge and experience as possible. So it's the best way is to follow that wheel, to see how they ride, to see how they sit in the saddle, what they do, how they recover, how they eat, all those experienced riders, you should kind of follow them. And actually, if you're actually in those races for the first time, you will eventually be following Will. So just make sure you're drafting, because it's a huge difference once you're 5 meters behind the wheel and once you're like half a meter. It's a huge difference of saving energy. So draft as much as possible. And the 7th tip is drink and eat constantly. So it's just the matter of the calories you burn, and my arm is numb already. I'm holding this camera. Sorry guys. So drink and eat constantly. What does this mean? When you're out there and you're smashing at the threshold, pretty much I was doing this race a little bit under my threshold, maybe high tempo, 158 beats per minute average for 6.5 hours, and about 175 on the climbs. So I was pretty much doing nice tempo threshold work, and this is the work that burns most glycogen in your body, so you want to replenish it as much as possible. And the best way to do that, I noticed, is having a huge meal, a big meal, let's say, of complex carbs at the start of the day, and then consuming simple carbohydrates, like gels every 20 to 30 minutes, maybe banana, water, drink, all the time, constantly. So then your body feeling that sugars in your body, sorry for that sound. And then you're kind of like always carved up, you're always with sugars in your body, and then you're not bonking, your muscles are always, let's say, recovering or something, your muscles are always filled with some kind of sugars, because I noticed the guys were not eating, and like for 2 hours, I hammered with them, and then 2 hours in the race they're only drinking and not eating, and then we just dropped them, so don't forget to eat and drink. It's very important, because once you're hungry, once it's like 3 hours into the race and you haven't been eating anything, you will most likely not be able to recover that quick, even after consuming 5 gels. You will still, you will probably be at the back, not pushing that good, compared to what you could do if you would be eating and drinking every half an hour, It's very important. So these are my 7 tips. Once again, let's go through them. I specifically wrote them down, Never mess up with bike fit adjustments straight before a race, number 1. 2, big meal of complex carbs a few hours before a race, the most crucial tip. 3, minimal time for stops. 4, know the course. 5th tip, line at the front, so then you know what's going on ahead. 6, find a stronger guy's will. Probably if you're very strong, you can hammer, but still save as much energy as possible. You will still need it if you want to win at the end. And 7, drink and eat constantly. Those are my 7 tips, 7 observations from this race I noticed. And actually, I want to tell you that I like this course better than any other. Well, actually, I did only one race beforehand, So this kind of this race I did this weekend. I feel like these are the races I would like to do the most. Maybe 4 to 6, 7 hours of hammering is amazing. Like, I feel like I'm pushing my limits, Probably it's even better than, well, I'm not even sure about better than doing like maybe 15-hour long endurance ride. It's just different, It's just different. But I love this weekend's race, So definitely something I want to do in the future. And organization was just perfect, but this is the topic of another video. So leave your comment down below, share your experiences, because I'm gonna do more races in the future to share them with you, to gain more knowledge and experience, and something, some really like more of the vibe, I really love those gatherings of people. It's just next level, for me, being riding for a year pretty much solo. So this is something I want to do. Next race, 400Ks, Audax, PvP, Guangzhou, like 200K there and back. It's more relaxed, 24 hours to complete, but we'll see how we go, and it's a different course. So thank you guys for watching. If you like the video, once again, leave the comment down below, give it a like, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. More adventures to come. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.